To me, generational wealth means that you set something in motion that can impact generations for good. And when you set it in motion, it gets better and bigger, not worse. It just means handling your money with the next generation and the generation after that in mind, which means you don't spend all of it. And so I was fortunate enough to have a very diverse clientele, and many of my clients were Jewish, okay? And it just opened my eyes how they thought about money. Now, I was contrasting what I heard from them and what I saw from them to how I grew up. And many of the things that I learned, it was completely different with them. So I did this post on what I learned from my Jewish clients. And it really helped a lot of people, but it offended some people too. Because they were like, well, Jews didn't go through the same thing that black people went through. Black people, I said, well, they went through
I was about to say, it's not the same, but they didn't have it so easy either.
That's exactly right. But there were just some things that I learned from my Jewish clients.
Like what? Can you elaborate?
Oh my God. One of the things is, and I'm generalizing here, okay? One of the things is they were not conspicuous consumers. Now, what is a conspicuous consumer? Show-offs. They had wealth, but they weren't into showing their wealth until they had a lot of wealth, okay? In other words, they didn't believe in the fake it till you make it philosophy. They wanted to make it first, then look like it, instead of looking like it and not having it.
I agree totally with what he's saying so far. And the fact of the matter is, one of the biggest breakthroughs I ever had was realizing, right? Catch this. Wealthy people think totally different to poor people. It's easy to fall into the trap to think everybody thinks the same way, especially if you're one of those people, like many people are, who are just caught up in their own bubble. Wealthy people think differently. So a poor person could be in a situation, and a wealthy person could be in the situation as well. Those two individuals are going to be thinking drastically different things. And that's the beginning of why those two individuals are typically going to have totally different results. So one of the things he said, which I think is so powerful, but is so true, is we have to be able to get out of our own way. So he's like, look, he released this information and some people were like, well, they're offended. And look, I say this all the time. Everybody comes from different circumstances, but the reason why I always say, look, I like to do things successfully based on the word of God is because the word of God can transform every situation, whether you're from a Jewish background or an African background or a Caucasian background, it doesn't matter. The word can just work because it works. So being able to realize, well, look, this is some insights that I can get from these particular people. Let me use those strategies and start to win. What he spoke about from the very beginning, I believe wholeheartedly, right? Multiplication is a biblical thing. It's a biblical concept. From the first page in the Bible, God is saying what? Be fruitful and multiply. It shows you that the original mandate that God has for us is to produce, to not only produce and for it to disappear, but it to be perpetual, so it continues to multiply over and over again. But if we're not going to follow the right systems, why can we? Should we ever expect the right results? And I always think about this. Well, look, if God, based on that sort of principle, has basically set it up for the rich to get richer, as I like to say, my thinking is, well, look, if this is how the rich get richer, it only makes sense to start doing what the wealthy, the rich, the wise people are doing, so I can get into that same slipstream, instead of standing on the sidelines or being in a situation of the poor or the loser who's only going to get loser, who's only going to continue to lose.
So I was the opposite. I grew up, man, around broke folks who looked like they were worth $1 million, but they couldn't do anything. So that mindset. Now, here's another thing. When I was in the investment business, I was prospecting people. You know, I'm on the phone. This is back in the 80s, man, early 90s.
The hard days.
Hard days. No internet. I was a cold call machine. And so obviously I would go after people I thought had money. And then once I met with them, and once we started
Peeled that curtain back, like, excuse me?
I'm like, man, y'all broker than me, man. You know? But then I would meet some of my Jewish prospects.
Yeah.
They didn't look like they had a lot of money. They didn't drive the top of the line Benz and BMW, and they were loaded. So one thing was, now again, I'm generalizing, conspicuous consumption. The second thing.
Before we go to the second thing, just realize that, because I didn't even mention it in the first part, and it's vital. You've got so many people out there today who want to floss. They want to show off. They want, look at me, look at me. Most wealthy people don't act like this. So again, going back to what I was saying earlier on about the thoughts of the wealthy versus the thoughts of the poor, I look at my life and I always try to analyze, okay, cool, where are the areas in my life where I'm thinking poorly, like these types of thoughts are the things which are going to take me down a pathway which are going to cause me to lose. And I say to myself, okay, cool, what's the wealthy way to think? Okay, stop trying to show off or present a particular lifestyle which you can't match. Because I always say you're always going to get found out regardless of whatever the scenario is. And again, going back to the beginning of the Bible, God didn't only just say be fruitful and multiply. Another thing he said, which is so powerful, he says, let us make man in our image. So that shows us that we are unique, we are one of a kind, and there's nobody else like us. That is enough. That is all you need to understand. If you really like deep and really meditate on the fact that you are one of a kind and God gave you the fingerprints to prove it, there's nobody else like you. You are designed on purpose. So what does that mean? That means you don't have to prove anything to anybody. God sees you, God knows you, God has valued you as unique, special, and one of a kind. You don't need to wear a certain watch or drive a certain car or wear certain clothes in order to become somebody. You are already somebody. All these other things are just additions which broadcast who you already are. Don't fall for the trap. Let's see what number 2 is.
Was how they viewed generational wealth.
Okay.
They viewed generational wealth. If you didn't leave a significant inheritance to the next generation, then you were a financial failure.
And the reason why they say that, for example, is because like Proverbs 13:22 in the Bible, for example, it says, a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. So if you don't leave an inheritance for your children's children, the logical implication is you're not a good man. What's the opposite of a good man? A bad man, an evil man, etc. So I'm going to keep saying to you guys, follow the Bible. The Bible has all the skill, all the game you need in order to succeed.
And it was like, that is a part of what you do. And they were always empowering their children and their grandchildren financially. Even stuff like birthday parties, giving people stock for birthday gifts, money to invest. Man, I got stuff for birthdays, but it was nothing that could help my future. So I would say conspicuous consumption. There are many other things. How they view generational wealth, and then but there's.
Can you imagine someone giving you stock for your birthday? And he just said it, but this is the difference. And I mentioned this before about wealthy thinking versus poor thinking. If you're going to be a consumer and only a consumer, you're going to think, well, at birthday time, it's time to just go out and spend loads of money on a particular feeling, right? And I'm not one of those guys who's saying don't buy birthday presents or anything along those lines, but notice what he's saying. The wealthy people he was interacting with, they're doing things differently. They think differently. In their mind, they think, well, a good birthday present is some stock. Why? Because it perpetuates, it multiplies. If you just buy someone a toy or a gift or something along those lines, most likely you're buying a liability, or as Robert Kiyosaki calls them, a doodad, right? Something which just evaporates and is losing you money or losing value is the better way to say it, every single day. Just, this is so powerful. And I agree with so much of what he's saying.
One more, if you don't mind me.
Yeah, for sure.
How they viewed each other and how they did business with each other. Now, I'm not saying they would not do business with other ethnic groups, because I was an investment advisor for many of these Jewish people. But boy, they valued helping each other. And that was something I did not see in the African American culture.
Teamwork. Most people think, for whatever reason, right, I'm going to go it alone. I'm going to do it all myself. That is the wrong way to go. This is why all the way throughout the New Testament, even if you want to think about the whole Bible as a whole, right? The Old Testament and the New Testament, it's about unity, connection. Connect with God, but also connect with your fellow man, right? Because you are stronger in numbers. When you are separated, it's going to be harder for you to do so much more in life. When you're able to delegate, when you're able to partner with other people, you can go further. That's why one can chase 100, or one can chase 1,000, two can put 10,000 to flight, right? The God's multiplication in God's economy is drastically different. So again, he's telling you stuff that these Jewish friends of his were showcasing to him. And where do you think they get all of this stuff from? From the Bible. So when I think about all of this stuff, this is again why I continue to say you have to use the Bible. You may not see it right now, but the more and more you start to see, okay, cool, God has wisdom for all areas of life. The more you start implementing it, the more you're going to see it, the more you're going to realize, aha, what he was saying was actually true. So I'm going to wrap up today's video there, guys. Don't forget to like it and subscribe. And as always, don't forget to react righteously. God bless.